Good evening, everybody. All right, thank you for the time in coming to support our OSG Young Founders Weekly webinar. I'm Garrett. I don't know whether I've met most of you. I'm moderator for this webinar. Currently, we are in our third series, and we are pleased for this series to invite Mr. Eugene, co-founder of StaffAny. Today, we share with us on the startup journey and endeavor, and of course, what are the emotional thoughts that he have made, or some decision that he have made while making making this entrepreneur journey. So, but before I leave the mic to Eugene, I first would like to invite Miss Lily Wong, our OSG Shanghai representative, to give us a short intro on OSG.
Okay, I'm sharing my screen. Can you all see my screen?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Great. Thank you everybody for your support to OSG. So I just want to spend a very quick few minutes to just introduce about what OSG is actually doing. Maybe perhaps some of you all may have heard us over and over again. Just bear with me for this couple of minutes. I make sure I won't be taking too long. So as all of you all know, OSG, our values are really on globalizing youth, and hoping that we are through our effort, we will bring in some resilience and entrepreneurship, along the way. So who we are, so very quickly, this is what we are hoping to do. We are a non-profit social platform. We have been established in 2017. So, as of now, we have our presence in Singapore, Shanghai, Beijing. Garrett is actually in Beijing. Billy, I think he's also on the line. He's in Shenzhen, and we also have Hangzhou. Okay. So what do we do? Very quickly, briefly, we organize talk. We actually have mentor-mentee. Those who are familiar with us would have known that we have actually running all this activity. Our signature events are like Run for Love last year. We actually did a charity event. Youth for Change, some of the events that we focus on disruptive and transformation. As a project itself, we also done Care for Youth, Learn for Exposure. We've actually brought some students to some very adventuring place last year. We shouldn't share the location now. A bit of secret. Okay. And then, this is just a snapshot of some of the talks that we have been doing. Right, this is the mentor-mentee session. I think especially those who have was here in Shanghai last year, they would have known these are all like the hackathons and challenge, competitions that we actually supported. This is just a couple of events that we have brought the students to visit the NEO, which is the electric car. Okay, just before I leave, these are places where you can find us. Okay, if you want to know more about our new activities and all, we actually have our mini program, the WeChat mini program. So if you have a WeChat account, please add us so that you get yourself posted. So this Young Founders series is something that we actually kick off this month. As we all know, face-to-face connection is probably a limitation now. So we want to continue to encourage the youth, to actually walk out of your comfort zone. And then to hear from other youth who has been doing fantastic founding jobs, taking out some challenging, motivational opportunities to create their business themselves. So we hope this Young Founders series will actually continue to encourage them. At the same time, those of you that is out there, if you are looking out for something new, perhaps, you could be a unpolished gem, you can actually take this venture. Okay, so I think that's all about OSG. So I leave it back to Garrett.
Thank you. Lily, you hand over the control to me. Let me share the slides. Okay, before we get into the highlight, I'd like to introduce also that we are very honored to have two gentlemen, our expert panel, to join us for today's webinar. Let me put up my slides. Oh, are you guys able to see it? Able to see, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay, we got sorry, we got the two distinguished expert panel. We have Mr. Samuel Tan, VP IT of Robert Bosch Asia Pacific, who is a very experienced person that is in the IT industry, and we have Mr. Raymond Hong, CEO of RecruitPlus China, who is a veteran in the financial industry. So, welcome, Mr. Samuel Tan and Raymond. Thank you so much for joining us. And
hi.
all of them will have a chance to, after Eugene's presentation, pose some questions for Eugene, based on their, in their line of work and their expertise. So, without further ado, let's invite Eugene to give us the highlights for this webinar.
I think everyone has a highlight. Okay, so I'll go and share my screen now.
I think I need to exit first. Okay, you can.
Fine, fine. I think you guys are able to see my screen?
Yep.
Yeah. First and foremost, before I begin, I think that's the highlight, right? I think everyone here, especially also in the audience, right? All of us are highlights, right? Because ultimately, we want to keep this session also more discussive, whereby later during the Q&A, you guys could ask me some questions. Who knows, I will be asking you guys some questions also. So we just keep it more of like a two-way street, Okay, so maybe I can. Before I begin, also I thank OSG for this opportunity, and hopefully I'm able to validate you guys who are all listening. Okay, so we begin my sharing now. So a little bit more about me, right? Like for me now, right? Don't worry, I don't have a cough, fever, or sore throat now. And some more information about me is that I'm a NUS BIS graduate. Yeah, currently I'm one of the co-founders of StaffAny Leading Growth, and I also founded Exchange Buddy, which is a student exchange platform. And I see that I can see Chen here, right? He used to be helping me as well. So anyone who needs a good person to work with can always find him in the audience. Yeah, and these are some of the activities that I've done during my time in NUS. Even picking up a CLAT during my 4 years. One of my semesters during the 4 years, been on 2 exchange programs and was awarded the Young Entrepreneurship Award during my time in NUS as well. So maybe for some of us here, right, something common about us is that we went to China, right? Because I understand that most of the people here actually went for some kind of like overseas program in China before. But for the rest, right, don't worry about it. Similar to you guys, right? I also have been staying at home for the past 14 days. So I think all of us here have something in common. So the main thing about today, right, is not really about me, right? It's really about all of you, right? It's probably about what do you guys want to find out and what could I be able to evaluate to you. So maybe as appetizer, right, I can just share you guys how it all started. So during my time in uni, right, I like to be very adventurous, right? So these are 4, I would say, key highlights that I've done during my time in university. Yeah, so I actually tried 3 startups before, and I also went for a year-long program in China, right? So maybe I use this chance to elaborate a bit more towards my first startup, right, whereby I was trying to do something related to social sharing of food, whereby everyone is able to share their food at their own convenience. Yeah, so this was what I started in year 1. For this, we managed to start with some, very initial early validation, whereby we have people in halls, NES halls, right, trying to cook and sell. Yeah, of course, that isn't something that is really right, but at least we try to execute on it. And unfortunately, that didn't work out, right? Because me and my other co-founder both us went for student exchange in our 2nd year of uni. And that is where when I go for exchange, right, I started off doing something more interesting, right? Because I realized that, a lot of exchange students, they are not able to find genuine information online. So started a student exchange portal, right? And afterwards, I went to China for a year. And the last thing that I did before graduation is to try to bring technology back to China. So throughout my these 4 years, right, some key things that I learned, especially for my first year, is about a commitment. Anyway, the first startup that I started with, right, called Jensen, right, actually we are still running our current startup together also. So that is where we learn the importance of commitment, right? Because both of us, we have something running, but yet we need to go for exchange program. So there's no way we are able to do it have a full-time commitment. So of course that didn't work out. So in my second startup, that's where I learned about a skill set, right? Because being someone someone who don't have much internship experience in the past, then that is where you need to learn how to do many things yourself, like coming up with videos, coming up with a growth package campaign, right? So if you guys remember, there's this PPAP kind of song, yeah. So actually, I did something along that lines, and it got pretty viral. So that is where I pick up a lot of like digital skill sets. That's during my second startup. So the third one would be more towards my third year of uni, right, whereby I went to Shanghai for a year. And that's where I realized, right, the people that are really hungry, they're always looking for growth, right? Like, let's say, for example, you give them a target of X, right? They always try to give you X plus 2, or they'll try to give you, in terms of the deadline, if it's like, you know, X week, right? They give you X minus 2 weeks. So they always try to over deliver. And that is the kind of mindset that I experienced during my time in China. And the last thing that I learned during my fourth year is regarding timing. Yeah, because at that time we were trying to test out, right, how does the QR code ordering work in Singapore. And then of course I think the timing wasn't that right as well. So these are things that I've learned throughout my 4 years. And after which it leads to what I'm doing now, right? Which I'm one of the co-founders of StaffAny, whereby we are digital workforce management. So I'll briefly go through these slides because I think just to give you a bit introduction of what I'm doing. Yeah, so this is my team, and most of us met also during NOC, and this is where we are now, right? We are a stage company. We have a team size of around 20, and we have people from different countries, right? Because we like diversity, and we like some kind of like with more diversity, there's also more ideas and more collaboration. Yeah, and we are in many of your favorite brick and mortar stores in Singapore. So the problem that we are solving is really more towards the management of hourly workers, right? It's super painful to do all their schedules, all their timesheet consolidations, and it's always hard to try to improve performance because with current manual methods, right, there's no way for you to track them really automatically. And last thing is the current solutions are very prone to errors because everything is being done very manually. Yeah, so just a quick run through of how it works is that what we really want to do is really to kill off the very manual work of all the spreadsheets. Afterwards, we want to empower companies to improve the performance of their employees. And last thing, we want everything between ops and HR to communicate with one another. Yeah, so these are some of the testimonials that we have from our happy customers. Yeah, so probably you'll be able to see some of them still running around in Singapore. Yeah, these are some of the organizations that have been supporting us, which we are really very truly grateful for, because we wouldn't have been to where we are today if not for all the support. Yeah, so I think the main sharing today is also regarding the decisions that I have, right? Like my thought process before jumping into a startup, and what are the 3 key values that I actually learned throughout this journey. So people will ask me, right, why you go and right, go and try a startup right after uni, right? Wow, like so shag, right? That I don't need to sleep, I need to work 24/7, right? So I think these are some of the usual thinking people will have when someone is trying to run a startup. But I'd like to give a different perspective on how can we look at these. Like, why do I even still do it, right? So actually, there's 3 main things in which guide me through this decision process, right? It's about what am I optimizing for at this point of time. Yeah, so actually that's a question that I was asking myself before I took this leap of faith to join my other co-founders on this journey, right? I think in life there are a few things that we could optimize for, right? It could be a monetary reward, right? It could be a growth, right? Or it could be a lifestyle. However, for me, I would want to prioritize growth more compared to the rest, because how I see in terms of the monetary side is that, you know, maybe, you know, as a fresh grad, you might be maybe compared to peers, right? I'm from finance, right? So most people be earning like a high 4-digit or maybe even a 5-digit, right? Then compared to like running a startup, whereby definitely in terms of monetary rewards at the start isn't that high, right? So I was thinking along the lines whereby, you know, what will I envision myself to feel in 20 to 30 years time, right? Then I also so that was where I realized, you know, every marginal increase in income is actually it's like a diminishing effect, right? Let's say, you know, probably in 30 years time, right? Probably in terms of income, you might be earning, let's say a high 4, but your friends are earning a mid 5 or something. But in terms of the incremental increase in in extra benefit, it might not be as high as compared to now. Yeah, so I thought that, you know, hey, then why not? Then I'll be also asking people around during that time, like those who are in their 40s or 50s, right? Looking back, right, what would you have done differently, right? Then most of them say, shit, actually I should have done something that I really prefer to do, right? I really like, right? Because ultimately, time is something that cannot be rewind. It cannot be earned back. Whereas money, right, every time you lose, right, you can always, you know, try to earn it back. So that's the trade-off, and that's why I decided to optimize for growth. So the next thing is also regarding the opportunities and the timing. Yeah. So this is where I learned from my my fourth year of uni also regarding timing, right? You know, how ready is the market in terms of adopting technology to optimize their processes, right? This is one of the opportunities. But the thing that actually caught my eye is that really to have to work in a team that has a complementary skill sets. Yeah, so me and my other co-founders, we are all actually heading different fronts. And in terms of a character-wise, right, we might not be similar also. So I think it gives the team a very good, holistic and all-rounded kind of a view of a kind of contribution a company could have. So that's why, and I also thought to myself, where will be the next like opportunity, right, whereby you're able to have a team with a complementary skill set. Yeah, so decided to see this as a potential area of opportunity and timing. And the last thing that got me thinking is about what will I regret more not doing more now. Because this is a very interesting thing, right? Because I think in life, right, we will always like want everything, right? It's like it's not normal human being, right? We just want everything, right? But what will I regret not doing more now is something that actually helped me make my decision better. Because I've been thinking along the lines also regarding, you know, for the past 4 years of uni, right, I've been always trying some stuff, but not really anything full-time yet. Why not use this chance because of the thing that, because of the growth that I'm optimizing for, and because of the opportunities that of the team that I have, I think I will regret more not doing this now as compared to, like, let's say finding a proper job. So actually that these three thinking process actually guided me to how I decided to just, you know, start StaffAny together with my other co-founders. Yeah, and most people ask me, right, like halfway through, right, like, because one of my friends that see me now, they write, hey, how come your IVAC suddenly so big? Yeah, but then they thought, oh, I didn't regret or not. Yeah, but the thing is, I do not regret at all. And I believe that some people in the audience here probably have tried your own hustle before. And I believe that most of you here also wouldn't have regretted what you have done, because throughout this kind of journey and experiment, and that is where we really learn the most, right? Because whenever we fall down, that is where we learn how to pick ourselves up even faster and stronger. Yeah, and I think this is something that is more pertaining to what are my greatest three takeaways so far during this journey. Yeah, so I had to use this GTG framework, you know, like GTG. Yeah, okay. So the first thing, right, is really to have gratitude, right? Because I can always remember during the early days, right, when we didn't have any customers at all. I think that was in 2000, and we started in 2018, right? Our first customer only came in on 1st July 2018. I can still remember the times whereby we really knocked the door of Tanjong Pagar. You know, I can spend, like, you know, 2 weeks, right? Every day, right? Every day for 10 hours straight, I'll just be knocking on every single door, just hoping to have the chance to speak to the right person. Yeah, so that is where I learned a lot of gratitude, right? Because, you know, sometimes some people, especially at the start when you don't have you have an actual product yet, and people believe in you and they pay you for a solution that is not even fully functional, right? Yeah, so these are the people that we are very grateful for. And along the ways, we also are very grateful for some of our customers that we have with us, let's say like the Royalty Group, the Lihos, right? They really believe in us and have been using us ever since. So we actually grew from one customer in 2018 to now we are about 380 locations in Singapore. We're also in Indonesia, Malaysia, and Thailand. So so it's a super amazing journey, right? It's something that I would say is one of my greatest takeaways also, to be grateful. Next thing is regarding teamwork. Because during the time of running a startup, right, that is where you know that, well, there's 101 things that you need to do, right? And you need to have 24 hours a day, right? And if you were to do everything, right, then it'll probably take you maybe 101 hours, which is not something feasible that one person could do, right? Like, and also based on skill set wise, right? Let's say you ask me to code, I can't code anything, right? You ask me to design, maybe I'm probably not the best designer as well. So that is where I realized that teamwork is super important, right? Because you need to pull in people from different specialization, different skill sets together to achieve a common outcome. So what we always think about in this, how we think about teamwork, right? It's not 1 + 1 = 2, right? But it's more of a 1 + 1 = 4. Because every time when there's a collaboration, there should be a certain multiplier effect behind whatever outcome we are trying to achieve. And lastly, is regarding to having this kind of growth mindset. Yeah, I think this is something that I really value a lot in terms of having a growth mindset, because being in a startup, right, what we lack is resources, right? But what we have is time and energy. So what we could do, because we lack of resources, then the more we need to actually try to outgrow ourselves, because if we don't grow fast, then we'll definitely be pushed all the way to the back lah. That's why these are my 3 key takeaways in running a startup so far. Yeah, and I think the last part is also with all these things in mind, right? Especially with the COVID situation happening, right? It's like how can we use these learnings that we have in terms of identifying problems, right, and to turn it into creating value during an uncertain climate. So this is something new that we actually just launched in terms of initiative, and just trying to guide you through the thinking process behind it, right? So we're thinking along the lines of what problems are there, right? Especially for our current customer base, right? It's like the merchants, or probably they're having low sales, right? Because now it's like the CCD period, right? Then it's like, oh, it's like GG, everyone need to get, everyone can't really do take in. Then the other thing that we realized, that the other problem that consumers are facing also, they all need to stay home and they cannot get food easily. So you talk about looping this together, right, and start a social movement called Give Any, whereby, you know, we get people to actually surprise each other with a meal, right? That they just need to post on their Insta story that, you know, that they actually send a surprise delivery meal, and they can tag 3 friends to help out. So in this so in terms of the problem that we're trying to solve, right, is that, you know, people nowadays can't really eat out. How about I just give my friend a meal, at the same time support the sales of local restaurants? Yeah, so for the audience here, if you're interested, feel free to take part in this social movement as well. Yeah, either way, we also need to order delivery now, right? So just trying to do something good. I can go and find our Instagram page at the giveany.co to find the templates. And the next thing for merchants wise, right? Because what we want to do at StaffAny, we not only want to just be a business, right? We always believe that business is also an element of people. So whenever our customers or our clients are in trouble, right? For us, it's also our problem, right? It's also our trouble, and that's something that we wanted to solve. So what we do is that we're actually doing this pro bono. So whoever has an F&B and wants to list it, feel free to list it on our website, so we're able to at least, you know, perhaps bring you more sales. Yeah, so actually with this, right, I'd like to conclude my sharing. Hopefully it's able to give you a bit of insights on how I make my decision process and some of the values that I've learned throughout this journey. Because I think that most of the valuable part will probably come in the Q&A, right, whereby we have a more interactive session. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you, Eugene.
Yeah,
that was certainly a very inspiring sharing, especially for audiences that have the intention or at the crossroad of doing a startup, and also I think your sharing also let some of us that who have already on board in this entrepreneurship or already have done a startup reignite our fire. You know, that
never too late.
We're never too late. We are young before.
No, we are still young at heart now.
We are still young at heart. Yes. So, good sharing. Right now, I would I will bring in our 2 expert panel. Maybe Raymond. Raymond, we can start off first. Should you have any questions for Eugene?
Yeah, I use my notebook, so usually I like to take down questions when there is anything.
Okay, good. Thanks, Samuel, and very inspiring from Eugene. You know, to hear, you know, young talents like you, and of course the 2 other speakers before this series, to see all of you have taken the bold step to venture into a startup journey and things like that. It's actually inspiring because for people at my age, and I think there are some speakers here. I mean, some of the audience here also having the same age group where we don't actually have that much of that kind of opportunity at that era. And now there's a lot more people, a lot of young talents are, going into this startup journey, which is very inspiring. So my first question for you, Eugene, is that when you started the startup, when was your so-called aha moment, and how do you then turn it into a business model whereby you need to convince yourself, and then at the same time convince the team, and then eventually, of course, whoever is going to back you up for the whole venture? That's my first question. Then second question, I think, is for the rest of the audience here, and a lot of them who may want to go on to the journey of being a startuppreneur. What do you think would be the characteristics and attitude that you must have, so that you can last and commit yourself to this difficult decision? And I think lastly, I can see that you guys have already started looking at how COVID-19 being a crisis and doing a lot of new initiative. But do you see any opportunities, for example, looking at new business area whereby you can actually expand your current services or your product to other kind of industry? Because I see that most of it currently are on F&B, and F&B side is obviously is one of the most severely affected industry at the moment. Okay.
Well, thanks, Raymond, for the questions. Quite a lot of questions. But very good. Don't worry, I got take down. So hopefully I didn't miss out any of the questions that you asked. Okay, so regarding the first question regarding the aha moment, right? Okay, so the journey is pretty interesting because initially, right, I'll say it's more of our team is pretty aligned in terms of what we want to achieve, right? That StaffAny, ultimately what we want to do is to really build the workforce of tomorrow, right? That be the future of the workforce in the future. Okay, so at the start initially, right, our hypothesis, right, it was that scheduling was the real problem, right? Then we went and test out in the market and realized that nobody's willing to pay for that, right? And then we realized that what else could it be after scheduling? So the aha moment really comes in when we are able to get our first paying customer, right? That is like early signs of validation, whereby we are doing things more towards the time sheet and time tracking. That's where we realize, hey, people are actually willing to pay for that. But ultimately, if you were to think deeper, right, why people are willing to pay for that is because it probably affects the P&L as well, right? Because most of these blue collar workers are actually being paid by the hour. So having a time and attendance kind of way to keep track definitely will be something that you'll be interested in. So that is where we find the aha moment and the potential to that. But the greater aha moment came when we have acquired our first 10 customers, right? Because sometimes one, right, can be a typo, right? And people just want to support you, right? Yeah, then once you're able to get 10, right, they realize, okay, guys, we actually are up to something. Let's all just double down and see how far can we grow together as a team. Yeah, so that is where the aha moment comes. It's really about real results that we actually gotten from the ground. And that is where we know that, hey, this is something that we could double down on. Yeah, did I manage to answer your first question?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead. Continue on.
Okay, so regarding the second question, right, regarding what kind of traits I see people starting up have, right? I would say there's 5 things that usually these people will have, right? First, I think they'll definitely need to have a grit. Yeah, not the greedy grit, it's a GRIT, right? Whereby you constantly, don't give up and always trying to find out ways to actually achieve a certain outcome. So the why is very important, right? What's the objective, right? Why you need to achieve a certain outcome, right? But the how can always change. So it's really about being able to navigate your way through to achieve the final objective. So that's how I see the thing regarding grit. Next thing I would say is towards gratitude. Yeah, because I believe that successful people probably tend to be more grateful as well, because we wouldn't have gone to where we are at this point of time if not for all our earlier customers, all of our earlier partners and everyone who have been supporting us through this journey. Like, let's say our friends, our family and friends as well, right? Our family is also a huge supporter of us, right? They can always say, hey, don't go and do startup, right? Then they always send you negative stuff, right? Yeah, so we are quite thankful that didn't happen for us. And in terms of our friends, our peers, right? It's about, sometimes, whenever there's a potential person that we could help with our services, they will just refer us. So I think this part of gratitude, right, is also like a amplification effect, right? Whereby, whenever you are grateful, then the way you treat people is very different as well. And in the end, how people treat you will be very different as well. The third thing is really about a hustle. So you just need to do your best. Sometimes people, they just put 8 hours of work, but in the startup, really you are lacking resources, you're running against time, right? Then the way to compensate is probably a more effort. So I wouldn't say a more time, but more effort. Yeah, because sometimes doing more doesn't mean it's doing better. But you put in the right effort with the right amount of energy. The last 2 points I want to raise is first is growth. Is to have that kind of growth mindset, which I mentioned before previously, right? Because really, we are lacking of resources, right? The most valuable asset of a company is really its people, and if its people is able to grow faster than the market, then I think the probability of succeeding is much higher. Yeah, I think that's about it. I thought it was my last point already. Oh, yeah, the last point is about alignment of values. I think even before embarking on this journey, right, anyone here who wants to start their own company or venture into their own projects, right, it's very important to be honest with yourself, right? Like, why are you doing this, and how does this company or this startup, right, ties into the eventual outcome that you hope to achieve in life. So I think that is something that you need to be very honest with yourself. I think it's always okay I think it's perfectly fine, right, to even go to a MNC or work for the government, right? So, but it really depends on your why, and I think that is something that you need to be very transparent and frank with yourself. Yeah. So this is the second question that I like to answer regarding the kind of characteristics that people who are starting up usually have. And the third question, yes, I remember, regarding opportunities in other verticals, right? So I think Raymond asked a very good question here, and that is something that we actually are looking at this point of time. So just a bit of history, right? StaffAny, when we just started, it's mostly in F&B. That is true, right? However, I think mid 2019, that is where we are able to serve people in other industries as well. We are serving people in the supermarkets, we are serving people in the retail, we are serving people even in HQ. But with regards to this current situation, F&B is greatly hit, right? What we want to do for our F&B friends is really to support them, but at the same time, double down on one of these verticals that we could potentially work on. Yeah, but in terms of which vertical, I don't have an exact answer to that, because we are still very open to this statement, and that's something that my team is working on at this point of time. Yeah, so you know of any vertical who will be interested, can let me know also after this session.
Okay. Is that all, Eugene?
Yeah.
Okay, Raymond, is that that's enough for your question?
Yep. I think then we pass it on to Samuel next, so that then Samuel can continue on with the next.
Sure. Hi, Samuel.
Okay. Hi, Eugene. Very inspiring speech and presentation. As I will echo Raymond, I think our era was just study, do some ECA, and then get on with life, right? Get a stable job, and we're happy, right? Unlike you guys, where now you have a lot of influence from overseas, especially in US and China, where there are a lot of startups, and you are all looking at that as a role model to push on, and I think that's really the next Zuckerberg thing, right? I guess a couple of questions. I know there are already quite a number of questions coming out in the chat, so I just keep it simple as much as we can first, right? And then we add on questions later if the number of views. So first question, just to warm up, do you have a role model, right? Do you have a mentor, or at least, you don't have to give names per se, but what kind of role model do you think can help you as a business owner, business leader, to move your company forward in the long term, right? And with that, then where do you see yourself in 5 to 10 years? Not just your company, but yourself as well. Okay, that's question one. Second question is, you mentioned that your customers are already around the ASEAN region, right? Did you, since I'm from IT, right, so I'm going to ask the IT question. From a technology perspective, right, do you see a challenge with the take-up rate of some of these tools, these apps in those countries, especially the vast differences, disparity in terms of IT savviness in those countries? Okay, so I'll keep to these two questions first, right, and then we move on to other questions later.
Chen, let me address the first question regarding the role model. Okay, so actually, right, this is pretty fun also, right? One of my role model, right, is do you guys watch anime? Yeah, one of my role model is Naruto. So maybe some people in the audience here will know who is Naruto. So basically, like it's a fictional character, but yeah. So actually, I learned quite a lot of attributes, right, in terms of a character, right, through a simple cartoon. So I think that's one of my role model in life. However, you're talking about work-related stuff, right? Some thought leaders that I follow are like Neil Patel and Andrew Chen. These are the people that I usually follow in terms of like growth strategies and also how they think about stuff. Sometimes I also listen to the podcast from Sester. Yeah, so these are things that I will always try to listen to, try to keep up to date. Yeah, so that's more towards the role model part, because these people have done it before. They scale companies from like 0 to, let's say, 1,000 to 1 million. So these are some of my I would say work related role models. So the second question regarding the ASEAN region, right? I would say that because we are doing a SaaS business, right? SaaS is like a software as a service, whereby people are able to use it anywhere, anytime, and it's based on a subscription. Yeah, for those who are not aware of what SaaS is, the difficulty in ASEAN region, I would say, yeah, definitely it'll be challenging, right? Because it's not say like in the States, whereby every city is have a common language, have a common kind of culture. The difficulty that we face is that every ASEAN country, right, have their own culture, have their own language, and they also have a different, I would say, growth in terms of technology. So that is actually a challenge that we are facing. I would say in terms of sales-wise, right, definitely in the other regions it's more challenging because we can't be there physically, but it's not like a huge challenge at this point of time also, because most of the stuff can be done remotely in terms of sales. But of course, the propensity to pay for each country will be different. So that is another challenge that we will face. However, to combat all these challenges, right, that's why I believe that stemming from the tech side, right, whereby we need to do some localization in terms of the language, right. Yeah, that's something that we did as well, and that is super painful, but we managed to get it through.
You missed where do you see yourself in 5 to 10 years?
Okay. So where do I see myself in 5 to 10 years time, right? I think the main thing to address is the why, right? It's about how I see myself is really about creating an impact, right? And I don't believe that impact can be created just by one person. So in 5 to 10 years time, probably I'm able to be able to guide or maybe able to nurture the next batch of people who are able to create more impact for others. But in terms of specifically what kind of work that they are doing, that's something that I'm not very clear of at this point of time, and that's something for me to also discover further throughout my 1-2 years. Yeah, hopefully I'm able to identify sooner than later. Yeah. But that's a good question to ask, and that's a question that sometimes at times, right, it's a good timely reminder, timely reflection to think about where do we see ourselves in 5-10 years time, and how are our actions leading towards the direction that we are heading towards to.
Okay, good answer. Thanks.
Thank you, Samuel. All right, so thanks for the question, gentlemen. Now we would let some of our audience to pose some questions for Eugene. So Eugene, do you want to choose, or okay, let's go down the list. We have one from
much question.
Daphne. Eugene, maybe you want to look at the chat. Stephanie was asking, Eugene, nice to meet you. So she want you to share more on how your team managed to raise funds, and was the market expansion a deliberate decision, or is it just come along the way?
Okay. Yeah, so I can share with you this, but don't mind if I some parts I might avoid some of the parts, but I'll just share you what I'm able to share, okay? So regarding a story of how we managed to raise funds, right? So this is a very interesting story, right? Because one of my co-founders, right, Jensen, right, before coming back to Singapore, right, actually he really managed to get some angel money beforehand. Yeah, he managed to pitch with a PowerPoint slide. So that is where we get our first batch of funding. So I think that the main thing about raising fund, right, the main thing that ultimately you need to show, right, is a growth lah. Really, I think that is the number one thing that we should always try to strive for. Growth in terms of growth numbers. How many customers are we able to acquire on a month-on-month or quarterly basis? But it's not just like incremental growth, right? Not like 1, 2, 3, right? You need to show in terms of exponential growth. It could be month 1 you have 1, right? Month 2 you have 5, then month 3 you have 10. Then afterwards you just have more and more and more. It's about the increasing growth rate. Yeah, I think that's the key. That's the key here. Like, and I think some of the audience here probably who have raised funds before probably will have been through this process, right? It's not about incremental, but it's about exponential growth results. So the next thing regarding market expansion, right, is that I think this was also pretty opportunistic. Yeah, because for us initially we are very focused in Singapore until I think the end of 2019, right? Then that is where we actually got on board into some accelerator program that link us up with POCs in other countries, right? Then our first country that we actually went into was Thailand. Yeah, and then that is where we realized that, hey, actually, right, doing sales in other Southeast Asia or countries, right, it's actually still okay one. It's like not say like, you know, so actually we combat that kind of fear that we have within ourselves. Then we know, hey, it's actually doable. Then that's where we try, you know, we will go to Malaysia, right? Then we know that, you know, there's this cafe Malaysia. We just plant ourselves there, right, and just do the normal sales approach. But this like, you know, you go for event, right, then you go there, try to close the person on the spot, that kind. Yeah, so I think it's pretty opportunistic in terms of how we go into other markets. But being a deliberate decision, right, is something that for us is something that we are looking at also towards expanding to actually double down more on Malaysia and probably Indonesia or maybe some other Southeast Asia countries as well. Yeah, but of course, if you were to double down in our market, right, that means we need more resources.
Definitely.
Okay. Hopefully I'm able to answer your question, Daphne.
Daphne, do you want to on your video cam and say hi? Does Eugene answer your question? Hey, let me see whether I can look for you. Hi, Daphne. No, Daphne did not turn on the webcam. So let's go to the next one. I think the next question, I like it very much. Charleston, do you want to on your video cam and ask the questions towards Eugene? Charleston?
Yeah.
Charleston, yes. Would you like to on your video so that you can put the face to the name?
Hi, Eugene. Hello. Nice to meet you. Yeah.
Hi, Charleston. I think Charleston is asking a very, very, very interesting, very good question. Charleston, please.
Yeah. So can I just read out the question?
Sure. That'd be better. Yeah.
Yeah. So I agree with you about the importance of team dynamic. So, like in your case, would you say that for you, that actually you went out deliberately to actually look for your co-founders, and you know what kind of characteristics that your co-founders that you want to work with, or do you feel that it's much more about serendipity and fate and seeing what their strengths and weaknesses and slowly trying to work with them and fit with them? Because so far in the last semester, I've been studying a lot about leadership and leadership within C-suites, and I'd like to know your perspective within startups, because I think leadership and team leadership is very important. You can decide like the fate of a company, and if things go out wrong, the first thing that comes to mind is actually how the team actually deal with certain things. Yeah.
I think this is a good question that you asked, right? And this is also the reason why I decided to embark on this journey with my other co-founders. So in terms of I would say that for this, in terms of team wise, right, I think a lot of it is fate, but it's a fate with a probability, right? Because if you don't do anything, right, the probability will just be low lah. So definitely the searching part must be there, right, to increase your probability or even finding a good team. So I think there's definitely both, right? But I think that the element of fate is even more. That's why I always felt that this is always that's why I thought it was an opportunity to just jump together with my rest of my team to actually do this. Because finding the right people to work together is extremely hard, right? Because you see in this world, right, there's almost like don't know how many billions of people, right? And how often do you get to find people with a complementary skill sets with the same mindsets and values to be with you? Yeah, so I would say that it's a fate, but with some probability behind. That's why we need to constantly search. And actually for the journey of StaffAny, it was started by my other 3 co-founders first. But remember I was sharing with you guys the story of my first startup, right? With Jensen. Yeah, he was the one that in the end told me that, hey, after graduation, how about we just do together with Jeremy and Kai. I said, okay, then go ahead lah. Yeah, so there's some part of searching. Like if he didn't search, right, then probably I might not even have been together with them.
So do you guys like draw the line between work and friendship?
Yeah, so for us, right, I think that whenever we are working, right, or even in group projects, or even in the working environment, right, we need to be very objective, right?
Yeah.
Not that because you are a friend, that I give you less work, or not because that I don't like you, that I give you more work, right? We need to always be very objective, and that is something that I think is also a lever of a majority, right? How can you separate between work-related kind of feelings and personal feelings?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for the answer. Yeah.
Yeah, hopefully I managed to answer your question. And thanks for asking your question and showing your video also.
Yeah.
Thank you, Justin. All right. Let me go to the next question from Ken. Ken, are you there? Ken.
Hello.
Cannot hear you, Ken. But anyway, Ken asked very interesting questions. Ken, are you there? Ken?
Yeah, I think he's
Yes.
Never mind. Maybe Eugene
My question is alright.
question on behalf of Ken. Ken was asking that tell us a little bit more of your growing up and how it had shaped your 3 core values.
Okay. Yeah, so in terms of growing up wise, right? So it's more of the soft part lah. I would say that one of the biggest core values that I take away is really discipline and hard work lah, and trying to see things in a very positive manner. So like most of us, right, I'm not from a super rich family. I'm also not from a family that is not well off. Like really typical Singapore lifestyle, right? Like to go down, eat kopitiam, hawker center, eat chicken rice, that kind of one. Right, so typical primary school, secondary school, and JC then uni. Okay, so in terms of my growth journeys, right, I think some of the more significant moments would be during secondary school, right, whereby cause I went to a secondary school, joined a CCA, joined basketball, right. Then also that CCA, that school is very strong in that particular sport, whereby there's almost everyone is a DSA, a direct school admission a person, right? I like no experience and go there and join. So that is where I learned that so for that, right, because I wanted to compete, right, then I would, and I also know I lack the skills, right, so I would actually train almost every day. It's like really every day. I can even remember, right, during my first year in secondary, my secondary 1, right, every weekend, right, every training, every kind of like interval trainings, I will just puke lah, almost every just puke lah, but I just pong lah, right. And that is where I learned a lot of resilience, right, because every training, right, I thought that I would definitely like GG, maybe I'll just faint, right, but I still managed to push through it, although I puke lah, right. So that is where I learned that we can always constantly challenge and break free from our limits. Then the other thing regarding seeing things in a positive light, right? Of course, you know, although I train very hard, hoping to represent the school optimally, you know, in Sec 3, Sec 4, I still didn't get to do it. That is where you feel like, hey, shit, how come I train so much, right? I put in so much effort, right? Then I still don't get the desired goal that I wanted to get. But then again, I thought back to myself, like, you see, if not for these past 4 years of training, right, I wouldn't be able to have the kind of a mental capacity that I currently have, right? And the next thing is I also wouldn't be able to know that I'm able to do things that I initially thought that I couldn't do. So that is something that actually I learned during my earlier days of school life. Yeah.
Thank you, Eugene. All right, last, I think we can come to the last few questions. There is one from Shirley. Shirley would like to ask, what is the lesson being taught in China? Any plans of coming back? I think you already
Actually, in China, right? Actually, I learned in China, right? In Shanghai, I learned super a lot of lessons. First thing, this is the reason why I decided to choose China, right? Because I wanted to be comfortable, right? Because to be honest, right, my Zhongwen now not very good one. It's like it's the typical Singapore people go to China, right? You talk to some local Chinese, right? They're like, 你讲什么? They kind of, right? Yeah. So I think some key lessons that I learned, right? First, right, is to be more independent and try to find out ways to survive. Because when you go to China, right, as you see everything is in Chinese, right, and you don't really understand much, right? Then it's like, wow, you need to really try to adapt. So I think it's more of a adaptability, being able to adapt to different living environments and try to survive from it. The next thing I learned in China is really about a better communication, right? Because many a times, right, whereby we try to communicate with someone in another language that we're not familiar with, right, there can be a lot of potential opportunities for miscommunication, right? So that is where, you know, I learned how to, okay, sometimes you need not always use words to communicate. Maybe sometimes your body action, right? Or maybe some kind of, you can just do other forms of means of communication to try to bring your point across. And the last thing that I learned in China is really what I mentioned just now regarding the kind of a growth mindset and hunger that the people have there, right? You know, whereby they are always trying to, you know, over deliver. They are trying to really, you know, this is like somehow whatever they do, right? This is like the last job that they have in their life. Then they just chung. So it's that kind of a hunger, right? That I also learned from my time in China. Regards to plans of coming back. Wow, that's actually a very good question, right? Plans of coming back. That is something that I'll be keen to go back for a holiday. but maybe not. Maybe regards to work related, not something that I can see in the near future. But probably, you know, in the midterm, right? Who knows that I'll be going back there again? Because ultimately I've lived there for a year, really enjoy the kind of environment, and also getting to meet the OSG people there. Yeah, why not?
All right, thank you, Eugene. Next question, Eugene, for you from Terence. Terence is curious how appealing your value proposition to your customer is. Can you quantify by giving an example? What is the success rate when you pitch to the customer? Is it too technical for you?
Okay. Well, just curious, right? Is Terence here?
I think Terence is...
Hey Eugene, how are you?
Yeah, hello. Hi, Terence. Oh, very interesting question.
Maybe if I could frame this, the reason why I ask is because in my earlier career in the 90s, we actually invested in a similar type solution. We call this workforce management. And of course, those days it's called enterprise software. There's no such thing as SaaS, right? And that was way back. And you know, it's good to see you guys doing something like that. But the two parts of my question, right? One is, of course, it's a product question. The better your product, the easier it is to sell, right? Because the value proposition is so good, you know, we call it a slam dunk type solution, right? But if it's not, then, you know, did you I mean, it's a product question. So what kind of challenges did you have? What kind of takeaways that you can share when it comes to product definition or product design that you can share with the group?
Okay.
Does it make
Yeah,
sense?
actually based on the question you asked, right, I can roughly gauge that it's a question from an investor. Okay. Yeah, anyway, to address your question regarding what kind of value that we can give to our customers, right? Firstly, it's more towards, right, how we are solving the problem is very different, right? We are solving more